So I think a good place to start, Lewis, is that I don't know all the electronic props that are on the market. I mean, I know specific categories of them and I've seen them when I'm working with them. So I think what might be fun is if you get your iPad out, I'll get my phone or laptop out, and we sit and we actually do some research and take some notes on what's available in the market right now, and then we'll take the big hitters.
Yeah.
And then we'll just on camera work out these big hitters. I mean, I already have an idea of a few of them. I do have techniques. There's some of the popular ones, but I want to look at those subdivisions and subcategories and little things that we might have missed. And that might be the new big thing that we can replicate.
Let's do it. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, let's jump into some research.
Absolutely. Let's have a look.
So we're back from researching the entire catalogue of the world of apps, electronics, and
Took a while.
there were so many. I couldn't believe that in the last 5 years alone, you think you're on top of this stuff. And then you look at what's out there and you start going down those rabbit holes. And I found like a series of websites where you had to punch in a secret password to be part of it. And I thought, you know what, this is quite interesting. But then 2 seconds later, I found a forum post of that same thing that practically talked exactly about what it was. And I thought, well, this entire password business is a waste of time once somebody starts asking about it on forums. But there was so much out there, and I sort of went through a list. The idea was Lewis were going to create his own list, I were going to create my list, and then we were going to cross-reference those lists at the end. I haven't looked at yours, you haven't looked at mine, but one thing that I know is on both lists, because we talked about this on the phone, is one of the big hitters, the witch hand.
Yes. Yeah.
But as I was doing a deep dive, I found a really interesting cup that predicts whether the coin's heads up or tails up on the inside.
Okay.
So they shake the cup, look inside, and you can predict whether it's heads up or tails up. And I thought, you know what, that's an easy one to start with. It's a 50-50 and it's a great segue into which hand. So if you don't mind, we'll start there and we'll talk
Let's
about
do it. Yep.
So the version that I want to share is something, it involves a couple of blank pieces of card. One of them has heads written upon it, and I'll let that dry out, and the other has tails upon it. Now, because you didn't know we were going to talk about this, of course we don't have a coin to hand, so you're just going to have to make imaginary choices.
Okay.
But again, one of these says tails and one of these says heads. In a moment, what's going to happen is I'm going to look at you for a second, you're going to flip the coin, you're going to catch it on the back of your hand, you're going to peek. There's no coin, so you're just going to imagine doing this, and just imagine whether it's heads or tails. And then I'm going to get rid of one of these, and I'm going to try to predict in advance whether you've gone for heads or tails. So I won't ask you until I've committed to one in my hand.
Okay.
So if you look that way for a second, imagine you've taken a coin, you flip it, mix these up. Okay, I think this is the one that you're going to go for. So have a peek at
Yep.
heads or tails,
Heads.
and there it is.
Nice.
And you can see that it's heads or tails. We'll go again. So turn that way. I'm going to mix these up off camera. I think that it's going to be this one. So look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to ask you at the last second there, even though it's an imaginary coin, did you think of one and then change your mind?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what did you settle on?
Heads again.
Heads again? So did I.
Nice.
That's twice. Let's do this again. Again, I'll take these off the table. Mix these up. Okay.
Okay.
This is one that's going to be interesting, because one or two things is going to happen here. You're either going to end up coincidentally with a sequential pattern that stayed consistent, or you're going to break that cycle. Now I'm going to give you the chance if you want to flip the coin one more time.
I do.
Okay, so you flip it one more time.
Okay, I'm happy with this.
Have a peek.
Mm-hmm.
Is it heads or tails?
It's tails.
And there we go.
Nice.
And look, you can see there's heads, there's tails, and I predict it. And I can do
so
that
good.
over and over again.
Yeah, of course.
So, again, I haven't played with this concept for years. So that was probably the roughest take of that it could have ever been.
Still perfectly worked.
Well, it's
With
simple.
an imaginary coin as well.
Yeah, it's self-working. It was the roughest performance ever, for which I apologise. But it was just something that I dived into my memory bank for. I didn't even go through my notes. I just went, you know what? What fits into this category? There were a thing years ago by Mosaic called Yes No.
Yep, I remember it.
And I always had a version of that, predicting whether somebody were going to say yes or no. And for years, I thought, oh, you know, that's a little bit weird. And then I changed it to lie and truth. So somebody would tell me a statement, and I'd place down on the table the one that I thought it was. And I'd cover it with my hand, and then I'd lift my hand up, and then I'd predict whether it were a lie or a truth. And I always thought that were a better take.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was just a 50-50. And then when I thought about that, I thought, you know what, this fits into that. So the method for this is dreadfully simple. I'm sure you already guessed. It says tails on one side, heads on the other, and this one just says heads.
Yeah.
So what that means is that I've already got one of these pieces of card that's pre-written. So these stacks of card have all sorts of things on them. But one of these already has the word tails written face down. Now that'd be blank. I know it's not now, but that'd be blank, and this would be blank. And I take the one that's blank on both sides and I put it second from the top. So the one on the top actually already has tails written underneath it. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah.
So now the reason for that is this, that when I pick these bits of card up like this, I can casually flash them.
Yeah.
So I'll show you this from the beginning just so that we can stay tracked on where it is. I always write the word tails. You're going to let that dry for a few seconds. That's going to go face down, and then the card underneath it is going to be left blank. So there's two cards that you can casually flash. So if you were to look at these and I were to do this, it'll look like they had nothing on.
Yeah, of course.
And all I'm doing there is just a casual display as I lift them up. You think you can see both sides, I turn.
Yeah, nice.
It's just a little display. It's like a paddle move. So I'll go through what that move is. Again, this is the one with tails. It's on the top. Tails is here. You splay them, you pick them up, you drop the rest down. These are going to be held like this, just as you're talking. You're not going, look, there's nothing on. You're not saying that. You're just holding them casually. You then turn them with your finger toward yourself. You take them, the tails is going to be here. You turn that like that, as you just do that.
Yeah.
They're lifted up like this. You're casually showing them. You're flipping them. The one that's towards you is like that.
Perfect.
You'd
swear they were blank.
That's it. They get dropped down. I write heads, I write tails, I get rid of the pen.
Yeah.
You've just got to remember this has tails on it.
Yeah.
So you're going to write heads on the one that says tails on the reverse side. Now you've got a double-faced card, one that says heads or tails, and then you're going to write tails on the opposite. Now you need to try to make the heads and tails look the same.
Yeah, of course.
You don't want to make the handwriting different.
Yeah. But they're never going to see both at the same time anyway, so...
That's it, that's it. So it's just in case they get a look here, you just try to get them as close as possible. If you were to look at those two...
more or less exact.
They're not too much out.
Yeah.
It's not something that's going to be called attention to. Now, the move's simple. The hardest bit is keeping track of the one that's got both on it. My recommendation is that if you're performing this like this, I'm performing it to you, so I'm not really worried about the back. So maybe I flashed from that angle. But if that's the case, if you're performing as a group here, just always keep the double face towards you. So that's going to be there on the table, like this, and that's going to be there. You're going to pick the one up that's blank on the back first, so you can show the back. Then you're going to pick this one up and go, okay, so which one do I think you're going to go for? So now I know that I'm always going to place the back one down.
Yeah.
So that's like this, and then as this comes like this, now this is the bit that I always struggled with. The scripting's really simple. It's going to be, I'm going to get rid of one of them, and I'm going to try to predict which one I think you're going to end up with. Right, so this goes down, and now I'm holding this, and I just casually glance down to remember this says heads here. If you call a heads, I'm going to sit like this, casual. There's a reason sitting like this, because if it is heads, I'm going to go like this.
Yeah.
If it's tails, my movement's going to be to lean back and go, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
What you don't want is to be seen to be doing this.
Yeah. Some sort of weird, awkward manoeuvre.
That's it. If you can hold it just like this, almost like a tenkai.
Yeah.
Like this. So now you can literally just casually put it down.
Yeah.
Or you can casually put it down.
And don't get tempted to do this. So let's say heads is facing you. Don't get tempted to go, oh yeah.
That's it. You don't want to do that.
Right.
And that's how I used to do it.
Yeah, because then it wouldn't be consistent with the rest of the moves that you're doing. So yeah, I like that. Leaning back, showing it, there it is.
And then if some of the times what's going to happen when this gets dropped on the table is you're going to drop that down and you're going to go like this and then collect them back up the same way.
Yeah.
So this one, the double facer, comes to this side like this. If you find yourself in a situation where you've placed tails down and they've said tails, you obviously can't show that.
Yeah, of course.
So that time what you do is just pick them both up like this and place them back like that.
Yeah.
That the amount of times you're not going, look, and that one says heads. You're not doing that. You're not going. That one says this.
Yeah, it's just if the moment calls for it, if you can in the moment, you can just turn it over. And even as you're just picking them back
That's
up,
it.
you can casually.
So as you're just picking them up, just like that, and these come up. The next time, again, the back one's going to go down like this. Let's say that they say tails, it's going to come down like that. And I'd always just try to do that. So then pick them up, and then don't be scared of saying I'm going to move them again.
Yeah, of course.
Hide them out of the way. The whole idea is to get away from them.
Yeah, so you can look away and you can double check for yourself in your hands as you're mixing them up. Let me make sure I've got this right. Okay.
That's it. And then again, the blank one goes back down. This one's held in a similar position. I think I've got it. And there we go again.
Yeah, nice.
You know, and then as you're taking these, you can collect them up. It's as simple as that. It just allows you to predict heads or tails every single time.
Yeah.
So that version there you've just seen is nice and easy. It uses a double face card.
Yeah.
This one's an interesting one because it allows you to be able to predict before they've ever flipped the coin how the outcome's going to be.
Okay.
So there's a couple of ways you might present this. One way is to talk about the man who made decisions in his life based on the flip of a coin. This guy believed that every single decision that he made in his life were a fair choice. And so he divide his choices into binary decisions, like what he were going to eat, and then if it landed heads, he'd go one way, if it were tails, he'd go the other way. But he quickly found after thousands of coin flips that there started to be natural patterns that occurred. And actually, it was the chance that made him believe in fate. So I'm going to show you something, and you've got to decide at the end of this whether you believe it is chance or it's fate. I'm going to tell you I think it's fate, because I know what you're going to do before you do it.
Okay.
So that's normally the way into this, or you don't say anything. I'm just going to move that over to save it from burning. There we go. So I'm going to write down what I think you're going to do before you ever do it.
Okay.
Whether this is going to work or not, I don't know, but it's going to be a bit of fun. So place that down there. It's sat in front of you. So imagine you took a coin and think about what that coin is. Don't tell me. Imagine seeing it and turning it around.
Okay.
Looking at it, seeing it. So for example, if it's the 2p piece, you imagine seeing it. Someone asks you, what coin is it?
50p.
Look what I went for.
50
pence.
Yeah, nice.
Right. So I've already predicted what the coin is. I can see that coin.
Okay.
Now, I knew you were going to go for that before you went for it. So now flip it. Open your hand. Did it land heads or tails?
Tails.
Turn it over and have a look.
And there it is. Tails.
Now people are going to swear that this is set up. They're going to swear it's set up. I wish we had an actual coin. In fact, I'm going to get one so I can show you how fair this is. But let's do this again.
Okay.
I write in advance before you've ever done anything whether it's going to be heads or tails, so you flip it. Open it. Don't say what it is. I'm going to ask you, are you happy with the outcome of that, or do you want to flip it again?
Yeah, I'm happy with the outcome.
What is it?
Heads.
Have a look.
And there it is, heads again. Nice.
Let's go again.
I'm going to line these up so we can see them. Yeah.
Okay, so just going to sit there. What is it this time?
Tails.
Have a look. You're not going to believe it. That's 3 in a row.
And there it is.
Do you want to do more?
Let's do a few more. Yeah, let's do one more.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Tails.
Have a look at it. So we got 50p tails, heads, tails, tails. I'll tell you what, let's do a little flurry of these, just quick, just to show you that this is genuinely possible. Make it as random as you can. Don't think about patterns, change your mind as many times as you want.
Heads.
Heads. I'm going to write a few of these, wait a second.
Okay.
We're going to do them as a flurry. Don't forget that you said heads.
Heads.
Flip it again. What is it this time?
Heads.
Heads again.
Yeah.
So flip it again. Don't look yet though. Don't look. Okay. What is it this time?
Tails.
Okay. So 3 in a row there. Just to show you, what were the last decision?
Tails.
So look, that's tails. What were the decision before it?
Heads. Heads. Nice.
7 in a row.
7 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus the coin as well. Fucking brilliant.
No electronic device?
No electronic device, no coin either.
Yeah, I know. And if this were with a coin, you'd see this were genuinely random. I mean, to be 100% fair, if I'm going to be honest with you, this is easier without a coin.
Yeah, of course.
Because people fit into specific patterns.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sitting here and claiming for a second that there is a pattern that existed here and that I'm going to be teaching you some secret formula to be able to predict the patterns of the way that people think. It don't work like that. And the outcome of this is going to be 100% no matter what. I'm going to talk to you about a few things and break this down. I think where we start is right at the beginning with the coin.
Okay.
Now, you didn't even expect the coin to be a thing, right?
No,
like
not at all.
you didn't know that were going to be a thing. But I found statistically that most people in the UK, when you ask them to think of a coin and then point out like, oh, like the 2p, I found most people go for the 50 pence or the pound. I've just found that. I wasn't even going to go for that, but what I did, and I don't know if you noticed this, and I do this a lot, is I had the pen open, and I said, imagine seeing that coin, and then I just casually wrote 50p, and I turned it towards myself. Never said I was going to predict it.
Yeah, of course.
And then if it hits, I show you it.
And if it doesn't
And if
hit,
it doesn't, I
no
go,
one has to know.
Well, that's it. And I go, so you can really see that 50p. It's important that you visualise the head, you visualise the tail, and now flip it. Don't look at it just yet. I'm going to write down whether it's heads or tails. And now I use a glide.
Yeah.
I just move this piece over onto the top of this one and just square them, or I just flip the cards over.
Yeah.
So I get rid of the evidence. I write 50p. Now, in America or any other country that you're performing this, just ask people, and then whatever answer comes up the most, use that in this beginning bit.
Yeah. Of course.
Now, there's no electronic gimmick I've managed to find online that tells you what coin somebody's just picked at random.
Yeah, definitely not.
Right, so that's one element that you won't be able to do with it. I'm sure there'd be something out there, but that's one element that people are not doing. So now, this section here, I'm going to break down what this is, because this is a bit of fun, and I'm going to try to show you it and replicate it, but show you what would happen if this didn't happen the way that it happened. So it doesn't really make sense, but I'll show you. So I write something down, and I say to you, right, just imagine flipping the coin. Is it heads or tails?
Heads.
Take a look.
And there it is.
And then place it down. So make it as random as possible. Change your mind as many times as you want. That's going to go down. So wait a second. Keep changing, keep changing, keep changing. And whenever you want, flip the coin one more time. Take a look at it.
Heads.
Take a look at it. People are going to think that this is some sort of setup.
It's definitely not set up, because when you hear the method for this, you will understand why. Well, you'll just understand tails.
How low?
Jesus Christ.
Go on.
Heads.
Have a look. Let's do a few of these.
Heads.
Right, so flip another coin. Go. Don't say. What is it?
Tails.
Look, and again, there it is, heads and tails. Exactly as predicted.
Fucking brilliant.
It looks great, right? It seems so fair. Now,
It is so fair, though,
I've got
that's
like
the thing.
60 cards here that's heads and tails, so
Yeah.
I am going to reuse these.
Reuse them.
Let me explain this now, because people are going to be watching this and going, oh, there's just some code or pattern.
No, there's definitely not,
genuinely
because when you hear the method, you'll realise there isn't.
So my method is to always move into the end phase. So the way I look at this...
Do you know, sorry to interrupt you there. Do you know what you could, after what you've just done, you could look right down the lens of that camera and say, so you need to meditate for 30 minutes a day whilst repeating the name Pete Turner over and over. Then you're going to start with one, then you're going to start... You could have actually just given some sort of bullshit answer there, and because that was so clean and so good, they would have gone out and done it in the hopes of being able to accomplish that.
But they will be able to go out and do this.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been funny to just tell them a bad method, but no, this works, this is genuine.
It's so fucking easy as well. Like, it's so easy.
Yeah.
So the technique for this is inevitably... The inspiration for this is something that I've done for years, and it's called jazz mentalism. And Dave Humphreys, I called it Humphreys and Carver in Bigger Fish Files, and what that was is ESP cards. And what you'd have is 5 ESP cards. They have 5 ESP cards, and you'd take one and place it down.
Yeah.
And if the one that they placed down matched when you looked at the marking, you'd flip yours over and show they were a match.
Yeah.
If it didn't match, you'd work one ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Or one behind. So you'd be working so that whenever they put theirs down, you'd look at the marking on yours, and that's the one that you'd put down next.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was thinking, do you know what? I did that for the longest time with Out of This World. So when they were saying, oh, red, black, and somebody would like keep score of them, and then right at the end, you'd better do a flurry of these.
Yeah, of course.
So I did it for a long time with Out of This World. With coins, I've never done it, but it actually makes more sense. It's so easy as a plot to get. It's fun, and it seems... when you watch it, you're going to watch that back and go, that looks so good. You're going to get excited watching it. And I was just excited then, the more it was coming up.
So was I.
So I know how much fun this is. But yeah, so what I'm doing is, again, I'm gonna try to miss. I'm going to attempt to miss. So I place one down. So you flip the coin.
Yeah.
What is it?
Tails.
So I have missed.
Okay,
right?
good.
Right.
Finally.
So I've missed. So if that had a hit, I'd have just said, have a look at it, and we'd have both been laughing. And that'd have been, but I've attempted to miss there, and I've put down heads, and it says tails.
Yeah.
So now, if that hits, I just lean back and say, turn it over.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, I move into the pattern now of working one behind. So because you've just said tails. I now write tails.
Yeah.
And then I place tails down next before you flip in the next game. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
So let's say I put that down. You've
So
said
you've put heads. I've
you
gone
said
tails.
So now I go perfect. I go take a look at it, and then I'll put mine out, and I'll go. In fact, you know what? And I'll stop you before you do. Let's do a few of these.
Yeah.
Keep track of that. You said tails. So now I write down tails.
Yeah.
And I place that down. So now let's say you flip it, and it lands, and you say tails again.
Yeah.
Right. So now that pattern, that chain's not been broken yet. So I can't. You haven't said the magic word which I need to break that cycle, which is heads.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just reusing these. I would be writing these
Of course,
out, right?
yeah.
So because you said tails again, I place another down. And let's say that you flipped it again and you were being a pain in the ass and you'd said
Tails, tails.
and you said tails again. So now I got, so you said tails again, I write tails again. So I know that's 3 tails in a row, right? You've not yet said heads, but let's say this time you say heads.
Yeah.
So I've put that down, boom. So now
So
that's broke the cycle.
Yeah.
You said, basically it's in the wrong position because
Yeah.
I've just worked until you said that magic word, that heads,
brings you back
close.
to the beginning. Yeah.
So now what I do is I go right and I pick these up, and as I pick them up I do this one little move. My fingers come, as I'm picking this up, my fingers come into contact with the bottom card, I push it over. So as these are coming up I just push it over like that and I'm done. So like this.
Yeah.
And I go, what were the last decision that you made?
Heads.
Heads. And I go, look.
Yeah.
And I push the one off the bottom. So the one off, so underneath it's this, it comes up, and as they're coming up, like this, I go, what were the last decision you made? And I pretend I'm coming off the top, but I deal it off the bottom, heads. And now I hold these very casually, and I go on the decision before that,
Tails.
and the decision before that.
Tails. Heads.
Right, well, tails, 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 remember?
Okay,
3 tails.
yeah.
Tails, 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 heads.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you broke that cycle, so tails, 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 heads. And then somebody be keeping track of that, and then
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Right?
So essentially, let's say you've written heads, you've put it down, and they've said tails. You're just working one behind until they eventually say what that original one
That's
was.
it.
So we will keep going, and when they say heads again, I write my final one, place it down, and when I scoop them up, that first one now becomes the last one.
That's it. You're
Yeah.
just moving it from the bottom to the top.
Yeah.
Now, what you can do here, let's say, for example, you put tails, heads down and they say tails.
Yeah.
And then you put the tails down, they say heads.
Yeah.
So you say that's 2 decisions, but look, tails and heads.
Yeah.
That turnover move there is just literally picking
See-
them up and then just flipping them and pushing. It's like a Monty move,
Yeah.
like that. This doesn't seem like much. Sorry, this doesn't seem like much. That's going to make a right noise, for which I apologise. This doesn't seem like much until you get into the habit of doing what I just did. And then look at how fun this game gets when you start to predict somebody. So
Yeah.
let's say that you place this down and you go, right, heads or tails?
Heads.
So take a look at it. So again, you can make it as random as you want, so as many times as you want. So change your mind as many, many times as you want, heads or tails.
Heads.
Have a look.
Fucking hell.
Again, make it be as difficult as you want to be. Try to catch me out.
Heads.
Have a look. You can be as difficult as you want.
Tails.
Have a look.
Fucking hell. Heads.
Have a look.
Tails.
Have a look.
Oh, fuck off.
So, like,
And right, that's so good. But it's so much fun as well, and the excitement I'm experiencing. Now I know the method, and the thing is, and you might not believe him, the truth is he is just guessing. It's 50-50 each time. But like,
I'm trying to think of what I do.
yeah, exactly.
I'm
You're
trying-
looking and
I'm
you're
also
going,
nudging a little bit. I'm going, be as difficult as you want.
yeah, exactly. And you're looking and saying, okay, is this somebody who wants a challenge? Who is this? Someone who's going to say heads every time? Is this someone who's said heads twice and now they're probably going to say tails to change it up a bit?
So I
You
look
just-
at them. That's what I do. I go,
Yeah.
if it's heads, they're likely to say tails.
Yeah.
If we've been playing it a while, I know the psychology. You can listen. There's one thing that I will say to categorically to people watching this, and you can believe me or not, you've been around me enough, Lewis, over the years to know this. I am genuinely pretty good at guessing what people are going to do when it's 100%. A succession of things. People could say I'm not or I am, but I can genuinely say that in the real world, when I'm out doing this, I've got to a point that I've done it for so long that I can make good guesses.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I went with the heads the first time, I know by nudging you and going, be as difficult as you want, make it as random as possible. You go, well, tails might be too obvious, heads, so you go heads. Yeah. And I go, literally be as difficult as you want to be, so you went heads again, boom, boom, boom. Like, I'm trying to nudge you to do what I want you to do, but quick. Yeah. And then the moment, and what I always say, I sprinkle in a couple of times, you'll notice it if you play it back, we'll do a few of these in succession. Like, I always say that.
Yes, of course.
So now when I say that, I go, look, and what I do is, let's say I put heads down, you said tails.
Yeah.
I just try to guess your pattern. I go, what would I go for here if I were you and being difficult? Or is this person being easy? What would I go for? What would I say next? And you'll find it matches a lot more than you think. Which means that without a coin, it's actually more possible and easy than with a coin.
Yeah, because the coin is just... Because you're playing against a person versus a random actual coin toss.
That's it.
And the nice thing is, you can just keep these guesses going all day long, and the moment one misses, just turn it into the one ahead.
Yeah. That's where it's supposed. You're inevitably always going to be here at the end.
Yeah.
If you do 10 in a row or 5 in a row, you could say, I think that proves my point.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need to move into that if you get to that.
So there's a couple of things there. So firstly, watching that, you might think, oh, like, those were just genuine guesses, and you kept going because it kept working. If at any point you'd have put one down that I didn't say, we would have just gone into the one ahead and it would have still had the same effect.
But I don't. One thing that I do, and it's the same thing I always do with all my one aheads, is I put it down, I lean back. Let's say I've got it wrong, and I say, have a look at it. I go, in fact, you know what? Let's do a few.
Yeah, of course.
And I stop you from turning it over.
It's just a great subtlety. Yeah.
Like I go. In fact, let's just do a few of these quickly.
Yeah.
Boom, next. Boom, next. Boom. Okay, stop. You remember you went for heads, tails.
Yeah.
The last choice you made were tails, and then I flat. What was it? Heads, and what were? Oh yeah, heads. Boom. Proves I could do this every single time.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I just sit back and I'm done.
And the great part is, I had more fun experiencing that routine than I have in most witch hand, because a witch hand again is 50-50. What hand is it in? Or, you know, a coin toss routine. Like, oh, that was just so much more fun. And knowing that you can go out and perform that, whilst knowing that, you know, no matter what they say here, it's always going to look like I can predict this every time. That's so good. You could just go into that, and then you might get someone else who goes, "Oh, I want to play," and then just again, like Pete just did, recycle the cards, use them again.
This sort of stack can be used over and over now.
What you could do, let's say you've just played this and you've got they're all blank, but let's say you've just played this and you've got some great ones, and someone else goes, "Oh, I want to go." Pick up the cards and recycle them. Put one down, and if that hits, great. But if it misses for this person, or if one guess works and another one misses, when you get the miss, say, you know what? No, you have a totally different behavioural pattern, or you have a totally different way of thinking, or you have a totally different outlook on life. In fact, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to make my decisions so it's almost like put away then the cards that you've pre-written and say, you know what? No, I need to write these down. You have a different way of working than this person does, so I need to match that, and now write new cards for them, and you'll get the same effect again.
And if you really wanted to, what you could do is, after doing this a little bit, collect a load up off the table, but sneakily sneak in your double facer card. Yeah. So then someone goes, go on, then do it one more time. And you say, okay, I'm going to try to work this out.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, you just slip that in.
Well, then, rather than sneaking it in, because let's say you've got loads of cards on the go, heads or tails. Yeah. When you get a new person, then that goes, oh, I want to play this. Pick them all up, you know, pretend to or take a blank one and put it in. But just keep one up. So this one, I'm all over the place with heads or tails. Let's say this is a real card. It only says heads on it. You've just scooped them all up. And you say, you know what? I'm going to take a blank one. Take a blank one. Bury it in the stack. It doesn't matter. They're never going to see. This one says heads here. Or you might even turn it over. I don't know. I'm all over the place now because I'm so excited. But either way, with a new player in the game, you can show the blank side. I know it says heads on the other side. I could just write tails here and keep hold of it and say, all right, then here we go. And then play the same game that Pete showed you earlier.
It's
so
great,
good. So much fun.
And also, like, if you were in a pinch and you didn't have time to make one, like a really simple, like, I mean, they don't say anything on them now, but these ones probably will. There we go. Let's take these. Another little technique that you can use is this. So you take it, you say, right, heads or tails?
Heads.
So now heads, turn it.
Yeah.
And you're just using a double.
Yeah.
So you could keep a double there if you're good at turning a double, and you can show tails.
Yeah, nice.
And that's it. So there's a lot of like play with this.
What you could even do, let's say you've ended up with a stack of cards that's head. You could have heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails in order. So as long as you know what the top one is, so let's say the top one was heads, the one beneath that was tails, get a double lift ready. If they say heads, show them the top one. If they say tails, of course, do a double lift and show them tails. Then what you could do is, so let's say they said heads, heads is the top one. You're going to show heads, turn it over, and put it on the bottom. And now we're at tails, heads, tails, heads. So now, when they take another guess or they have another go, I know whether I can just show the top one, which would be tails, or do a double lift to be heads.
And if you have to do a double?
If you have to do a double lift, so I turn these over, there's heads, then all I've got to do is take that double lift and put it to the bottom,
That's it.
and now my stack is still there,
That's
heads,
sick.
tails, heads, tails, heads.
That's sick. I think that's a great little effect.
It's so fun.
I think
It's so fun.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think that's a good place to put a cut. Chapter mark.
Absolutely. Right, let's move on.